And hello again, and here we are in the back of my rather overcrowded garage for the next part of the Kawasaki Z1000 Mark II project. And today we should have a lot going on because I want to try and get this frame on its wheels at last. So to do that we've had a bit of a change of plan, because I was hoping to wait until the engine was complete, then we could take the frame over to Liz's garage, lay the engine on its side, and then put this frame over the engine, get the engine bolts in, lift it up, and we're all good. That's a great way of fitting the engine. It saves a bad back, it saves a lot of stress, because you're worried about scratching the frame when you're trying to manhandle a heavy engine into the side of the frame. But we've had a change of plan. That's because the engine is now complete apart from the head. And the head is over in Leeds with Roger Upperton, being rebuilt and ported, and I don't know yet how long that's going to be. I do know he's just one man, and at the moment he's got at least 20 heads to work on, so who knows where my head is in that list. Could be a few weeks, could be a few months, I don't know. So rather than wait all that time and have this bike in its various parts scattered all over my garage, scattered all over the back of the house, I want to try and get it back together and get a rolling chassis, a little bit like my Kawasaki Z650 here. Makes life a lot easier for me in the garage because I can wheel it around, it's all there. It also means that I can do more work on the bike. So for example, I can work out the lengths I need for the brake lines. I can work out where the rear sets want to be, I can fit the seat and try it out for size, because we're not fitting standard parts to this bike, it's all going to be one off. So yeah, there's a lot to do. So already today I fitted the swing arm to the frame, that was pretty easy, and I've gone and got myself some new tyres for these R6 wheels. And here they are. I've just collected the wheels today, and what I've got here is a pair of Michelin Pilot 4 tyres. Slightly out of date now, because now there's a Michelin 4, Michelin 5, Michelin 6, but they still work pretty well, and I'm damn sure they're probably better than I'll ever be. So yeah, pretty happy with this. And total cost for these fitted and balanced was £237 from my local tyre place, so I'm pretty happy with that. So now what I do today is try and fit these wheels, this frame, and try and make a roller out of it. Slight problem though, I've got something missing, and the thing I'm missing is a pair of shocks. Now the bike did come with a pair of ZRX shocks, which I've borrowed or given to the Kawasaki Z650 project next to it. So what I think I might do for the time being anyway is steal back at least one of those shocks and use it on the Mark II. I say one because I need one for the 650 to make sure it's going to be okay. And since there's no engine in it, I think one shock should be fine, just to keep it off the deck. So when it comes to shocks, I do get a feeling of deja vu, because I've been through this whole process before when I was looking for shocks for the 1170 project. And for that project I ended up with a pair of remote reservoir shocks from a company called K-Tech, and they were made for me, for the bike, so we spec'd the length, the spring rate, the damping, the weight of the bike and so on, and I'm very happy with those shocks. The only thing I'm not so happy with is the name of those shocks, because they're called Razor R, and that wouldn't be so bad, except there's a bloody big sticker on the shocks to sort of tell the world that's what they are, and I'm not a fan of putting those big stickers on the shocks, and in particular that particular name. I did think about trying to scrape it off, but I figured I'd leave it because I'll probably make a mess of it and leave a mess behind. So anyway, quite happy with them, and they were good value when I bought them. I think I got them discounted, cost me about £800, which is a lot of money but a lot less than a pair of Öhlins. So when it comes to shocks, we're looking at twin shocks of course, and remote reservoir shocks, and at the top of the pile is Öhlins, and the cost of them for my bike would be about £1,300. And in the past Öhlins were by far the best shocks out there for the aftermarket, but I think these days they don't quite justify the cost, because right now there's a lot more competition out there and there's some very nice quality gear in the aftermarket. So looking at UK based companies, a little bit cheaper than Öhlins is Nitron. and they make a whole range of shocks for bikes, UK based as I say, and their shocks are about £100 cheaper than Olin's, so still quite expensive. Consider them, and just like the K-Tech and so on, you can get them made to your spec in terms of the height, spring rate, damping and so on. And that doesn't cost you any more than if you just bought a pair of shocks off the shelf from a retailer, so that's pretty good. One thing I'm not too happy about with Nitron is their colour choices. Their main colour scheme is blue. It's like a bright blue or pale blue. So oftentimes you find springs are blue and so on, which, you know, wouldn't really work for me. That said, you can specify black springs. So, what's next? Well, going down the pile, we come back to K-Tech. Wouldn't mind buying them again, except I've already bought them once and I like to try different things out, and if I can find something better at a similar price, we'll go for that. A bit cheaper, in fact a lot cheaper, going down to about £500, you've got companies like YSS, which I must admit, when I first heard of them, I thought just some cheap rubbish from China, but it turns out they're actually from, I think, Thailand, and they make OE products for people like Honda and Kawasaki. Not sure for bikes, but certainly for other kind of vehicles. And I've actually bought myself 2 pairs of YSS shocks in the past, and I bought the very cheapest ones, you know, just cheap and cheerful, about £150, and I must say I'm very impressed with them. At that price level they were good value. But now they also make remote reservoir shocks too, and they're a lot more expensive at about £550. I'm not sure how easy it would be to get them custom made, because I think they're just brought into the country, so I've no idea. But for a similar price you can get a pair of shocks from Hagon. Now Hagon have a reputation as being sort of cheap and cheerful, mainly for older bikes, older British bikes, which is true, but they also make other higher quality and higher cost shocks, which you can get for your bike, and that includes a set of remote reservoir shocks for about £550. And again, I have bought from Hagon before. I've got them on my Guzzi and on my Norley, but they're just straightforward non-reservoir shocks. But they are really nice. They're called Nitro, and you can specify the spring rate, the height, you know, the damping and so on. And what's nice about them is you get a whole range of choice when it comes to colours. You can specify different colours for the anodised parts. And also what's nice is, particularly for a UK person in wet and cold England, they make them out of stainless steel. So the bodies are stainless steel, the piston's stainless steel, and the springs are stainless steel, which is great news in a very damp country like the UK. So, all those different options. But there is another option, a very higher spec option for a UK based company, which happens to be about 10 miles away from me. Kind of handy. And they're a company that's not that well known, but they do have an excellent reputation. Lots of bikes use them on the TT, for example. And that company is called Mk2 Suspension. So, last couple of days I've been talking to them, emailed, phone calls, and I've now ordered a pair of Mk2 remote reservoir shocks for the bike. And that's not so easy, because you have to go into quite a long, not complicated, but a long-winded process of speccing what you want. On the website they have a PDF which you can download, and you enter in all the details of your bike, of your use of the bike and so on. And that includes things like your weight, the weight of the bike, whether you'll use it 2-up or just solo, whether you use it on the track or just road use. Even things like the weight, balance between the front and rear wheel, as well as the dimensions of the swing arm and the shock and so on. Now the good news is I've got the same ZRX swing arm as on the Mark II on my 1170, so I've used the 1170 as a sort of guide to measure out the various things that we want to know. So I filled in the PDF this morning, sent it off, called them up, they took my details, took my credit card, and I'll be getting my new shocks in about 3 or 4 weeks. So I was hoping I might get them this week, but no, the lead time's about 3 or 4 weeks because they're all made to order. And so in the meantime, before those arrive, I'll be using one of the ZRX shocks that's on the Kawasaki Z1000 right now, and that's no problem. I mean, there's no engine in it, so hopefully one shock should be enough. As I'm not trying to push it around and be too heavy-handed with it, we should be fine. And so let's make a start. Now today, turns out, is a beautiful summer's day, dry, so I can work out on the drive. The bad news is it means the birds are out there singing their heads off, which means filming might be a bit of a problem because I can't always hold my microphone at the same time as working, but we'll do our best, And so, let's get started. Phew, well that was hard work. It took a lot longer than I thought it would, but I'm on my own, so you do what you can. Anyway, that done. Quick tea break, and then I'll start on the back wheel, and soon, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have this bike on its wheels at last. And now, at last, I've got the bike on its wheels. I've also fitted, of course, the 2 front calipers, but we're not going to stop yet. I'm going to go and get the bodywork and we'll put it on the bike and see how it looks. And now for the first time I can start to see how the bike will look when it's fully assembled. So I've got the tank on, side panels and tail section. They're all a bit dusty, of course, to be in a box for such a long time, but yeah, looking not bad. Obviously I've not yet got the correct shocks for the back, but that's okay. But just one more thing I need to add yet, and it's over there in a great big box, and it's this. And in here is a seat for a Mark II. I've had this for quite a long time, never opened it, so let's get it open and get it on the bike. And now that's the bike, about as far as I can go. Got the bodywork on, got my new seat on. Bought that seat over a year ago when I just opened the box and put it on the bike. Looks very nice. It's not yet mounted correctly, of course, so it may not sit just right. I still need to get the correct headlamp for the front. I asked for that ages ago, but it's out of stock, so I'll have to ask again, put an order in. So the last job for me today was going to be to fit this. This is a side stand. It's taken from a Kawasaki ZXR 750, and it also fits, of course, the older Kawasaki's. Or rather, it should do, but it doesn't. Turns out that the gap here where the pin goes through, that's 10mm on this side stand, but the bracket it goes onto on this Z1000 Mark II is 12mm. Doesn't fit. Real pain, because it means I've got to juggle around and try and support the bike without a side stand or centre stand in a very confined space in the garage, and one false move it could fall over, hit another bike, you know, disaster. So I really wanted to get this thing on today, but I really don't want to spend hours carefully filing the inside of this thing to make it from 10mm to 12mm. So tomorrow I'm going to see Jeff anyway. I'll take this down there and he can stick it on his miller and mill off 1mm either side, and hopefully then it'll go straight on the bike. So yeah, so far so good. Pretty happy with progress today. Cannot wait to get my new Mk2 shocks on the bike. That'll be another 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah, so still lots to do. I mean, it's an awful lot to do. I've got to buy hand controls, got to make some rear sets, all electrics, switch gear, you know, everything. Work out the gearing, get the engine finished and get the engine in. So we're going to have 2 or 3 of us to help get the engine in sideways, rather than, you know, stripping this bike down yet again, down to a bare frame, so we can lift it over the engine. I'm not doing that now, it's just not worth it. What we will do though is fit the half-finished engine without the head on it in here before the head's finished. At least then we can make some more progress. So yeah, pretty happy with today. I'm actually knackered now. I think the medication I'm on is making me a little weaker, a bit more tired than I would expect. So yeah, so far so good. So thanks for watching and cheers.